What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several tips to hopefully help you play better when you don't get a jetpack easily in Fortnite Chapter 5 Season 4. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below if you've been having a hard time finding the War Machine hover jet since the nerf. So, for starters, I'm going to be referring to the War Machine hover jets as a jetpack for this video. That's just what everyone calls it. So if you're confused by that, I'm talking about the War Machine hover jets. And if you guys didn't know, earlier this week, Fortnite did reduce the spawn rate of the jetpack pretty significantly. They reduced it by 25% from the Marvel Avengers chest. So that's like a pretty steep downgrade. But they also decreased it by 50% from regular chests and floor loot. And that is a massive drop off. And I feel like that is the thing that really contributes to like people having a hard time getting it. The main way to get it was the Avengers chest to begin with. It's harder to do so now, and the other ways got way worse. So I think it's very likely you will end up in situations where you don't have a jetpack, probably even multiple games in a play session, or most of your games in a play session, you'll have a hard time getting it, especially in team game modes, because, you know, if you're playing squads, you need 4 jetpacks for everybody to have one. You know, if you're playing duos, you only need 2, and solos, you only need 1. So I feel like the larger the team size, the more of a problem this is going to be. My first piece of advice would just be to land at a named POI and learn where the Marvel chests spawn at these POIs. Because while the spawn rate of the War Machine hover jets was reduced from the Marvel Avengers chests, they're still going to be your best bet. It's still a pretty decent spawn rate, and it's still a lot better than the regular chest. So if you're landing at an unnamed POI, those typically don't have Avenger chests. Every named POI does have Avengers chests. So like, I think getting those Avenger chests is going to be a big deal. They were before, but it's even more so now because like the regular chest spawn rate of the jetpack got hit so hard. And even if you don't get the jetpack out of the Avengers chest, you have a pretty decent chance of getting the Shuri Black Panther claws. And while these aren't as good as the jetpack, I think they're much better than not having any mobility at all. And it would be my, second best option as far as mobility goes if I was to like make a tier list. I guess shockwaves would maybe be there, but those have their own problems in terms of being a consumable. At least with the Black Panther claws, you get it and then you have some form of mobility, And if you're fighting somebody who has a jetpack and you have no mobility, it's going to be pretty hard for you to get that kill unless they full commit to you. And then the same is true of nearby POIs. I said you want to land at a named POI and learn where the Avengers chests are. I think it's also pretty important to learn where the Avengers chests are in POIs near the POIs you like landing at. That way you can rotate to them and then hopefully find one at that point. But this is way less likely to work in team game modes. I often play solos, and like if I go to my spot and don't get one, I oftentimes can go to another POI and maybe find one because, in solos you only need one to play the game, and most people are going to land at a POI and fight. So if there's 3 jetpacks at a POI, some of them get left behind. In team game modes, that's not the case, but still going to other POIs for like supplementary loot can be good. And I think if you're landing at some of the less contested spots, you're probably going to have an easier time doing this. Like Brawler's Battleground and Mount Olympus are both fine POIs and both have, I believe, 5 Avengers chests. You're more likely to kind of land there, get one uncontested, and maybe have the other one unlooted too, than if you go like Grim Gate into Raft, which are 2 POIs I like going to, and that's a route I like running. But if I was overly concerned about getting a jetpack and playing as safe as possible, I feel like some of the POIs and the kind of Olympus biome and the desert biome often aren't as contested now as they were previously, so those can be an easier way for you to potentially find one or kind of have a second POI to potentially loot and hopefully get one. Relying on a spot that has no Avengers chest, like an unnamed location, was rough before in terms of getting a jetpack, but now it's even more so because the spawn rate was cut by 50% from floor loot and regular chests. So it's like if you're landing at an unnamed spot, I feel like it's going to be pretty difficult at this point to get one. You'll have games where you do maybe, but it's not going to be consistent, And I think you should just take other mobility in the meantime. Carrying other mobility items like the claws that I talked about or shockwaves is going to be important when you don't have a jetpack, and learning how to use them well if you haven't already is also going to be very important. Like I feel like the Black Panther claws came out and a lot of people didn't really care about getting used to them because you're just like, oh, the jetpack's better anyways. But now there's going to be a lot of games where you don't have a jetpack or you have a harder time getting one. So learning how to use the claws, learning how to use shockwaves, and carrying those until you are able to get a jetpack is going to make your life a lot easier. Also, using cars to travel around the map or between POIs when you're looking to get one can save you a lot of time and hopefully help you get there fast enough to maybe pick one up from like supplementary loot or third party a fight or something like that. And that's going to be your next best bet, I think, is just to fight other players. Like, it's pretty likely with how the spawn rate of things are now that you will have to fight other players in matches to get it. Like, it's just a struggle to get it. There's going to be times where you don't have one and you're going to have to fight someone who does, and that's going to be how you're going to get it. And that's why I really recommend carrying and getting used to the other mobility items, so at least you have something. If you have no mobility, like you just don't care to use the claws, and you tag somebody like 150 and then they just jetpack away and you can't get that kill, it's unfortunate, because that would have been a kill that you could maybe get if you had shockwaves or the Shuri claws to like push and continue fighting that person. I found that like going to really chaotic areas helps with getting a jetpack when I don't have one, but this is also a double-edged sword, because, you know, one, you could just get unlucky and maybe no one there has one as well, or it's just very chaotic and you end up getting eliminated. But I like landing Grim Gate a lot, and sometimes I don't get a jetpack, but I'll just go to Raft afterwards, and maybe I get one there, maybe I don't. But it's such like a chaotic POI at times that like you can get kills a little bit easier. You know, if it's just like a straight up fight that's as fair as possible, the person who has a jetpack, I think, has like a distinct advantage with how the game is currently. But in a chaotic POI like the Raft, I feel like the fights aren't as even, and you can maybe capitalize on getting some lucky timing and getting a jetpack that way. I think timing matters a lot more when the enemy has a jetpack and you don't. Like, if you're able to third-party fights and clean it up, this may make it a lot easier for you to get a jetpack from their loot than if, you know, you get in those fair fights like I was talking about. And then even if you don't get the elimination, if two players fought and both of them have jetpacks, odds are, unless it's a team game mode and other people need it, odds are there might be some jetpacks left around on that loot. So like looking for fights and looking to third party fights is going to be a great way to get one. Just hearing fights, you know, if you hear a fight going on and there's multiple jetpacks being used in that fight, you know, you can hear them. That's going to be like a high priority fight for you to third party, or like a high priority elimination for you to get, because going from not having a jetpack to having one is a massive upgrade. And like I said, timing is just really, really important. I'll have a clip on screen now where I just gotten rebooted and we heard these two medallion teams fighting on a hill, and we sneak up on them and get really lucky timing that one player, the fight had ended, one player from the winning team went to get the loot, and then the other player stayed behind, and we end up getting a free elimination on the player who stayed behind, and then we could just clean up the other one who went to get the loot. We got 2v1s just because of that timing. And I guess looking for the medallion players, if you are desperate for one, can also be a means to get one, because not only do those medallion players typically have a lot of loot, but there's going to be other people fighting them typically, or other people going for them typically, so that could help you get a jetpack as well. Weapon bunkers will open up in third zone, and this can be another potential way for you to get one. Again, the spawn rate isn't the greatest, but they typically have a Marvel chest in there, and they have several rare chests, and while the spawn rate isn't the greatest out of those chests, like, you can still hopefully get one. This does require you to wait until third zone, though. I wouldn't just sit around waiting until third zone to get one. Like, if you don't have a jetpack, I think it's very important to make a priority to get one. If I land at my POI and don't have one, I'm doing the things that I talked about in this video. I'm driving to another POI, hopefully getting it there, looking for kills, looking for medallions, going to areas of the map that are hotly contested typically, and trying to find a kill so I can get a jetpack that way. But if you do happen to be in third zone and don't have one yet, going for these weapon bunkers can be a great way to hopefully get one, especially if you're coming off like reboot. Also, there will be armories potentially coming in next week's update. We don't know exactly how these will work, but this was leaked earlier in the season that there would be Iron Man kind of armories that would land on the map, and it was actually shown on the trailer. But Winzo recently posted that the armories will be added in tomorrow's update, and they have two variants, the Iron Man armory and the War Machine armory. I'm assuming, you know, the Iron Man armory will have the Stark chest and other Stark loot like he said, but the War Machine armory, you know, I would assume would have War Machine loot. So this could potentially be why they reduced the spawn rate in the regular loot pool, because they knew these armories would be coming, and that would be a potential way for you to get the hover jets. We don't know how that will play out exactly as of the time I'm making this video, but if you're watching it, you know, days later, going for these War Machine armories could potentially be another solution for you to get the War Machine hover jets. But either way, like I said, if I land and don't get one, that's my goal in the game, is to get one. I hope you guys found this video to be helpful, informative, interesting. I know it's a struggle to get one. I know playing fights out without one it's rough, but you're going to need to win fights versus jetpack users to get one in some cases. If you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, interesting, give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.